Alright, let's see if I can be heard over the music. Okay, I can be, but I'm gonna lower myself just a bit. The time for denying magical entity rights is come. Hey, so skate. I have genuinely no plan, so let me just start. I genuinely didn't have a plan for today. I just got off of work and just went, fuck it, this is what I'm doing. Also, I need to vary up the images I have for a slideshow, because it's very obvious one obsession overpowered the other three. The day was a day, or was it actually good? It was stressful, mainly because you know having to still be at work and then finding out, oh, Wednesday I left 30 minutes early. Oh, I didn't even know I was supposed to be there till 5:30 on Wednesday. Then the day after they're just like, nah, 8-hour shift, and then back to normal. So I'm expecting my next week's schedule to be hell, which isn't a great feeling, but like, my parents have been forwarding me job listings. So it may be the opportune time to jump on that. Oh, why is the mouse freaking out? Where is it plugged in? Is it the first one? What? How do I forge your schedule? Oh no, the mouse is doing things. Oh god. Okay, no. Don't tell me things are just not gonna work right now. Please don't. Yeah, because now my mouse will move. What is happening? Why do you want to move? This is just my luck this entire past 2 weeks, isn't it, huh? Just manifested in my mouse not leaving OBS. It's just stuck. Like, I can't get it away from near the control center. I really can't. Like, anytime I try to move it away, it just astral projects the mouse. What kind of mouse are you? I'm just using an old USB mouse we have. And the thing is, it's doing the same thing with the touchpad on the laptop. So this is a computer issue as a whole. Oh no. Like, the most I can get it to do, I don't know what I necessarily do with the mouse, but I can get it to, like, scroll, basically do an alt tab. Wait, huh? Did I fix it? I fixed it. I fixed it! I alt tabbed to the game and that fixed it. Okay, get rid of the... just me. Do I have to reset my computer? Just, nah. Alt tab. Alright, now let's... Don't capture cursor for the love of God, please. And now let's get this shit fixed. Okay, so... Transform, fit this... Then, here's what... I hate it here. Brain is way bigger than it. Alt tab says let's go. Brain is very bigger than it need to be day. Hey Otter. And now I figure out how I had this set up before. You'll love to see it. Okay, fit the screen. So if I pull it this way, it doesn't make the actual window capture bigger? Or is it the wrong... Okay. So let me make this easier on me and just get rid of every other thing up right now. To make sure I'm focusing on the right thing. This is video capture, okay. It does not make the image bigger when I do this. No, it slides it. Even though you think it would make it bigger, but no. Scrunching and make it? No. About to have fucking conniption. Really am. Okay, you know what? Settle horizontally. Okay. Scale filtering. Transform. Edit transform. Okay, size. Fucking center. No. Oh my god. How big brain? Oh god. This is some shit today. Okay, reset. Business lemon top left. Size. Oh, I'm just gonna start bullshitting a size. 9. Okay. So what if I bit lesser? Okay. So then if I 70, 80, 90, we're almost there. There we go. And then we just guess our way to the top with this next one. This is a disaster already. 5. Now, okay, so we're going to the hundreds for this one. Okay. No, okay. 3, 2, 1, 2. So let me see if I can see if I got it right. Because OBS is deciding to be an asshole today. 6, 4, okay. 5. So then we inch it. There we go. I feel that should be good. Wait a minute. I may be incredibly dumb. I may be downright stupid. Okay, so let me remove this. Oh, that explains it. Automatic. I hate OBS. I hate OBS. I absolutely hate it. It's me. It's being more of a bitch than usual. I wonder why. C's capture method because I deleted window capture. Oh. Also, wait a minute. Is it making the sound come through my... No. Like, I'm assuming you guys can hear these. Yeah, the sound's coming in through phone. Of course, start the game. Okay, now. We can hear the game now. Right, so last time I left off. Okay, last time I left off, I remember whole family reunion deal or something or other. They went on the boat. Child just started going off like, nah, that shit cursed. And then George was like, nah, fam, shit fine. Then she just went, alright. But anyway, that is a heavily paraphrased version of what I remembered. Then again, it's only been a week. I didn't forget much. But anyway. The boat gave a big shudder. Seems we've docked at the harbor. The boat driver came out and jumped to the pier with a mooring rope. A large man in a tuxedo was waiting there for us with a warm smile. I didn't recognize his face, but judging by his clothes, he was a servant of the Ushiramiya head household. Are we out of context? No, Max, I will not joke on Jimito. So out of context, that is both the best and worst sentence I've heard today. It was seriously annoying, she said with her +7 sweep. At this rate, the word will spread to the whole family, and I'll be the big conversation piece during dinner. Even without this, everyone would be talking about me because of that 6-year gap. But now I've given them a even juicier topic. Otter, I'm not gonna lie to you, that is a Max thing to do. So yeah, I believe Damn it. Why does the Ushiramiya head family have to live on this isolated island? In the meantime, the boat had finished its mooring. A small plank was lowered so that we could get down. One by one, our parents came up from inside the boat.
皆様、長旅お疲れ様でした。奥様、お手をどうぞ。
ありがとう。お久しぶりね。ゴーダさんもお元気?
Also, something funny about Ava. Last stream when I said, you know, if I look up her voice actress's name, I feel like she's gonna voice one character from Higurashi that I feel she would have voiced. And then I looked it up and I was like, yeah, I was right. Just me. Is she the nurse? Yes. Okay.
おかげさまで毎日元気にお勤めをさせていただいております。
バトラ君はゴーダさんとは初対面じゃない？確か6年前はお勤めじゃなかったですよね。
はい。
So new hire, okay.
ですので、バトラ様とは初めてご挨拶させていただきます。
Hard reads.
はじめまして、バトラ様。
俺もタッパには多少の自信があったんだが、でっけえ人だな。
You know, it may be the sprites, but he doesn't seem that much taller. Unless man is secretly like 7 fucking feet, and this is the only way they can portray.
紛れもなく初対面だぜ。こんな大男あったら絶対忘れないさ。どうも、はじめまして。バトラス。
お待ち申し上げておりました。一昨年から後宮本家にお仕えさせていただいております使用人のゴーダと申します。
So he works for them. He's been working for them for like 2 years now. And did the game crash? Because now nothing's showing up.
どうぞよろしくお願いいたします。
Just me. No text is showing up. I think the game died.
何かご用命がございましたらいつでもお申し付けください。
ゴーダさん、お久しぶりです。
ジョージ様、ご無沙汰をいたしております。お手をどうぞ。
あんた相変わらず大した接客のプロや。
I'm still a big fan of how just man has a cousin named George. Just, yo, my name is Battler, he's George.
もし職に困ったらいつでもわしに声をかけるんやで。いつでも雇ったろ。
これは身に余る光栄です。どうぞお手を、秀吉様。
Goto-san then lent a hand to everyone as they disembarked, greeting them as they passed. His speech and mannerisms had the refined polish of a professional. He was very graceful, in contrast with his initially tough-looking appearance. His large size made him seem a bit scary at first, but he was much more polite than my first impression had led me to believe. He claimed to have served on the island for 2 years, but he had doubtless worked. I'm assuming they meant to write doubtlessly worked at a similar job somewhere before. After everybody disembarked, the mooring rope was untied, and the boat started to steer away from the harbor. It was probably returning to its home port in Nijima. The captain waved his hand in farewell. Maria consciously waved her hand back.
なんだかさっきから違和感があると思ったらあれだな。
soon as the boat's out of eyesight, just a kraken snaps it in half. Just, you've touched the island and now God is upset.
海猫の声を聞いてないぜ。
Well, he said the thing. He said the thing. The Uminekos are crying. We've done it. He's...
Umineko?
The game is over. They said part of the title. It's over. If I remember correctly, wherever we came to this island in the past, the seagulls always greeted us with their lively nya nya cries. Because of that, whenever I hear the cries of seagulls anywhere else, I get the feeling that I'm coming to a family conference. Except for the small part of the island where those of the Ushiramiya head family live. The Kraken. Oh no! The Kraken will be a metaphor for later. Oh god. This game's about fucking seagulls. No. Otter, that's... But believe me, when I got into Higurashi, I found out that just meant cicadas. So I sat there like, so you're telling me this is about cicadas? So you're telling me a shrimp fried this shrimp? But no, I'm assuming it's not about seagulls. I'm just assuming it's just something to make it sound different from what it actually is, or just metaphors and shit. I don't know. Except for the small part of the island where those of the Ushiramiya head family live, Rokenjima has been left uncultivated, which apparently makes it a paradise for wild birds. Supposedly, there was a cliff somewhere that housed a huge seagull colony, so this island was always full of seagulls. Not having those seagulls here to greet us made me feel a bit lonely. I just keep looking at the comment, this game's about fucking seagulls, and then they say it like 7 times in a row.
Ah, Rosa Oba-san. いや別に。海猫の声が聞こえないんで、なんか寂しいなーって。
あら、そういえばそうね。いっつも賑やかなのに、今日はさっぱりいないわね。
That was a reflex click. Let me go back. Okay, no, even though they're always so noisy, today there isn't one to be seen. Okay, so I'm good on that front. Also, it's not capturing cursor. I can keep it on the actual, like, game screen, just low so it doesn't bother me.
海猫たちも今日はよそで集まりがあるからかな。マリアも海猫見たかったの？見たかった。
Yep, see, Maria's still... Oh, no. You know, I could tell from, like... I think I enabled, back when I streamed the first part... Well, back part 1 of the streams for this... I had, like, the mod fan-made intro that's less spoilery. Yeah, I had that installed. And I just saw Maria basically be Demon Child for, like, a small bit, and then I was like, oh no. I feel pain again.
なんだってこうもまるっきりいねえんだ。ジェシカがみんな焼き鳥にして食っちまったんだ。
Jessica killed them all with her +7 sweep. Personal assurance and stuff like, oh, okay.
物騒なこと言うんじゃねえ。マリアが勘違いするだろ。
She grilled them after hitting them with the +7 sweep, I tell you. I'll never shut up about the +7 sweep, it lives in my head.
してない。そんなの私がするわけねえだろ。
そうだそうだ、ジェシカが焼き鳥にしたんだ。皮につくねにレバーにネギマン。
Oh. Well, that killed me having fun. Thanks, Shadow. As I made fun of Jessica, Maria tagged along, looking like she was having fun. It began early. I thought, oh god. Ooh, I never guessed she would be such a good sport. Alrighty then, from today on I'll make you my #1 follower. As I smiled at her, she beamed, looking overjoyed, possibly because she was happy about this little connection we'd made with each other.
違うよマリアちゃん。野鳥って天気や気圧の変化に敏感なんだそうだよ。今夜あたり天気が崩れそうだしね。杖早めに引き上げてるのかもしれないね。
ほう、焼き鳥じゃない？ジェシカお姉ちゃんが焼き鳥にしたんじゃない？違う。私はそんなことしないって。ほら、バトラも嘘だったって認めろよ。
バトラ君、マリアちゃんは素直な子だからそういう冗談でも真に受けちゃうんだよ。
She used that in her brain just now. Like, Otter, what's fucked up is that that's literally been... It's 99% because of the sprite, but that's very believable. Just damn, the brain don't work no more. George Aniki gently scolded me. Even though I outstripped Aniki in height, Aniki was Aniki, of course. There was no choice but to obediently apologize.
悪い。マリア、今のは冗談だ。海猫たちは今日は素でおとなしくしてるってさ。
バトラは嘘？
You lie! I can't do invaders, but...
ジョージお兄ちゃんは本当？
Had she actually been tricked, despite all the fun she was having? Her pure eyes made me feel guilty. Maybe I went a little overboard with her after all.
ああ、そうだ。ジョージ兄貴が言ったのが本当だ。天気が悪いんで今日は引き上げたんだろうよ。いなくなったわけじゃないんだぜ。ね、おばさん。
そうよ。明日以降天気が良くなったらきっと戻ってきてニャーニャーと声を聞かせてくれるわ。うん、天気良くなって戻ってくるの待つ。明日まで待つ。天気良くなるまで待つ。
Maria was in a lighter mood and was looking forward to tomorrow, when the seagulls would come back and fill the skies. Still, George Aniki really was amazing at taking care of kids. I think I remember Aniki taking good care of me as well when I was a brat 6 years ago. Aniki, it's probably your gift.
ジョージ君は小さい子の面倒を見るのがうまいわね。保育士さんでも務められるんじゃない？なあ、ジョージ兄さんの転職っぽいぜ。私的には社長室でビジネスってよりそっちの方が兄さんのイメージだぜ。
まさか。保育士さんは立派なお仕事だよ。単なる子供好き程度に務まる仕事じゃないね。
本当にジョージ君は謙虚ね。でもバトラ君も子供のあやし方が上手よ。さっきはほんの少しの間だけどマリアとっても楽しそうだった。これからも今みたいに遊んであげてね。冗談は選んで、 だけどね。
Rosa winked at me, giggling a little. She's a real mother, and I thought to myself, who's happy to see Maria having fun? I read that horribly wrong, even though, like, the tone of that was wrong. But,
それにガキどもも何やってんだ。行くぞ。
はいはい、今行きます。
the old bastard was waving for us to hurry up. My brain actively put the word waiting in front of waving. Happened again. Yeah, we needed to get moving. We might as well have this conversation after setting our luggage aside down in our rooms. There goes the brain adding words.
お泊まりのゲストハウスの方へご案内させて
Look, the random Yakuza Mook. Kiyama, get him. Rudolph has that energy, I'm not gonna lie to you. Just the one named enemy you fight in one sub-story and never see again. No, I did not want to open that. Go to Song called everyone. Go to Song called to everyone and led the way. Kumasawa-san brought up the rear. A serpentine twisting path led through a dim forest. It ran a bit uphill. I'd guess the path was made all twisty so the slope wouldn't seem too steep. But personally, I would have been happier if they had the guts to make some stairs in a straight line. Wait. No doubt they made the path twist on purpose to put on airs of distance and importance. Before long, we saw garden-style stone steps. Ah, from here on, I do have some memories. Go up these, and at the top of the stone steps, we saw a beautiful guest house. Its facade was lovely, of course, but more importantly, we couldn't enter its doors without having our hearts stolen away by the splendor of the beautiful rose garden spreading before it.
今年も相変わらず大したもんや。目の保養とはこのことやで。
After climbing the stone steps, the people greeted by this rose garden gave voice to their impressions one by one.
今年は少し花に元気がないんじゃない？やっぱり夏があまり暑くなかったせいかしら。
そのせいもあるかと思います。去年の先に比べると今年は少々見劣るのが残念です。
Even so, it was a delightful rose garden. I remember that even 6 years ago, huge numbers of roses had greeted us every year. This rose garden was the first thing that greeted people who came to Rokenjima. Even our parents, who came every year, couldn't help but give voice to their admiration. In fact, it seemed to have undergone a power-up from the garden in my memory of 6 years ago.
いつ見てもすごいわね。自宅にこれだけのバラ園があったらさぞや素敵でしょうに。
よせよ、誰が手入れすんだよ。バラは虫とか病気とか大変なんだぜ。
そうね。キリエ姉さんは毎日バラの手入れをしてて虫がつかないようにしてるそうよ。
え？
そうなのかい。そんな話は知らないぜ。
そうなんです。この人の場合はバラの方から虫を求めていっちゃうから、どっちかというとタチの悪い食虫植物ってところね。
ああ、そういう話かよ。たくローザ、今日はそういう話は勘弁してくれよ。もうそういうのはすっかり足を洗ったんだぜ。
どうかしら。
This expression again. Every every time she just seems so calm, and then
ルドルフ兄さんは遺伝子的レベルでだらしないですし。
大丈夫よローザさん。あんまりおいたするバラなら根元からちょんって切っちゃうから。
物騒なお話ですね。
モテる男はいつもリスクと隣り合わせなんや。わしも来世じゃもうちょい美形に生まれたいもんやで。
だから秀吉兄さん、モテてなんかないって。キリエも物騒な話なんかやめろい。
no, I get his ass.
俺のバラがしおれちまったじゃねえか。
So this what we not finna hear.
ほら、マリアち
It's
ゃん。
what you not finna say in front of folks, man.
こっちのバラは特に立派だよ。
バラが立派。
かぐわしい匂いだぜ。俺のエレガントさにぴったりだな。
おいよせよ。マリアが真似してトゲで怪我するだろ。
She yelled at me as I leaned in to smell the rose's scent with an exaggerated gesture. I still want to know why Maria was giving resting bitch face. She's a. Well, is it like Sosuke? This is my first time seeing the game itself. Like, I have seen some of the old sprites through the out of context when they cry account on Twitter, but I've never seen Maria's OG sprites. And I have no idea about the manga gamer ones either. I'm using the PS3 ones because I looked at them and went, you know, this one looks the nicest to me. I missed the whole missed the whole thing. I thought she was overreacting, but when I turned around, I saw Maria imitating my every gesture, and George Aniki smiling broadly at us.
バラのトゲは痛いよ。
少女お兄ちゃん、このバラだけ変。変？どうしたんだよ。
Maria pointed at a single rose. I immediately understood why she found it odd. In the midst of all these magnificent roses, one single rose was just starting to wilt. There wasn't any particular reason. Some roses flourish and others wilt. That's all there was to it, but Maria seemed very concerned about the only unhealthy one in the group. Must have made her feel lonely.
このバラだけ元気がなくてかわいそう。
I'm gonna call it now. Kumasawa's gonna fucking bite it for. No, I've seen things like that before. Just no, it's a metaphor. Me, yeah, it's a metaphor. You're gonna fucking die.
他はみんな元気なのに、これだけかわいそう。まあ、咲いたり枯れたりはそれぞれだからな。一足先にしおれる代わりに、そのバラは他のどのバラよりも早く開花できたんだと思うぜ。
そうだよな。いっぱい咲いてその役目を終えてお休みに入ったってだけのことだと思うぜ。そんなに気に病むことはねえさ。
It seemed that Maria's pure, sensitive nature was making her feel some emotional pain for the rose that wilted alone. Even though she understood the logic of it, it still felt lonely to her.
じゃあマリアちゃん、帰るまでの間このバラをお世話してあげるといいよ。
Georgianiki straightened up and felt around in his pocket. He then took out the wrapper from the candy he'd been sucking on the plane. He twisted it into a thin string, then gently tied it to a rose as a sort of marker.
なんだか可愛くなったね。
これがこのバラの目印だよ。後でお水とかをあげに来てごらん。バラさんもきっと喜ぶと思うよ。
お水とかあげに来る。
せっかくだからこのバラさんに何か名前をつけてあげるといいよ。そうするとバラさんも喜ぶと思うし、マリアちゃんと心もきっと通い合うと思うよ。
名前。
Though she still wore her usually sullen face, Maria crossed her arms and began to consider this intently. At the very least, she appeared to have been completely pulled out of her slump. Nice going, Aniki.
ジョージ兄さんって昔から包容力があるよな。尊敬するぜ。
だな、人徳ってやつだろ。後で爪の赤をもらってきてやるから一緒に飲もうぜ。
We have to steal his tech. We have to hit the lab.
この庭園はお前が子供の頃にもこんなに立派だったんか？
私が出てってからよ、こんなに立派になったのは。前の庭園の方が素朴で愛着があったんだけどね。兄さんがちょっと悪趣味にいじりすぎたのよ。前の方がずっと良かったんだから。
エヴァ、ポジティブシンキングやで。昔は置いといて今のこの美しさをめでなあかん。その方が心が安らかになるで。
別にそんな意味じゃん。ただ私は昔の方が素敵だった庭園をあなたにも見てほしかったなってだけよ。
それでは皆様よろしいでしょうか。そろそろお部屋の方にご案内いたします。
Oda-san called to everyone to ask if we were ready. But our hearts had been completely stolen away by the rose garden and none of us had seen for a year, so we didn't pay much attention to him. Since we weren't a travel group, it wasn't like we had a strict schedule to follow. Besides, since our parents were visiting their old home, full of nostalgia, it wasn't like they had to let themselves be urged on by anyone or anything. Understanding the situation, Goda-san continued to wait, smiling widely until our parents got tired of the roses and told him to guide us to our rooms.
Well? おーい、カノン君やないか。久しぶりやな。元気か？
Uncle Hideyoshi suddenly shouted. The direction he was waving was a slender boy. Beating him ran after a huge man like Goda probably emphasized his small stature. The boy was in the middle of transporting piled up gardening tools and the like in a wheelbarrow. When he realized he was being called to stop, he sat on the wheelbarrow, took his hat off, and bows his head. You're also in the fighting game.
こんにちは。
I figured he was probably younger than me, and I realized by the general atmosphere surrounding him that he was another servant. He greeted us in response to Uncle Hideyoshi's call, but he seemed like he might be pretty unsociable most of the time. It was a greeting that lacked feeling. When Goda-san noticed our interest had shifted towards him, he went to the boy's side and introduced him to us.
バトラ様、ご紹介いたします。後ろ宮本家にお仕えしております使用人の一人です。カノンさん、お客様にご挨拶を。
はじめまして。使用人のカノンです。
How much do I want to bet he's also voiced by Yu Kobayashi? Because knowing that at least some or most of these voice actors are recycled from Higurashi, I'm sitting here like, yeah, Akasaka's Battler-ka's fucking Daisuke Ono, Aniva's Nurse Takano. So I'm sitting here like, nah, they already had a boy voiced by Katsuragi. This would be the second one. Yep, my first impression wasn't wrong. He seemed to be unsociable, or at least not so good at talking. Compared to Goda-san, who was extraordinarily polished as a servant, you couldn't help but feel an inexperience typical of his age. When Goda-san urged him in a whisper to give a bit more of an introduction, the boy named Kanon only cast his eyes downwards.
カノンさん、もう少し何か挨拶することはできませんか？い
え。
No.
私たちは家具ですから。
He didn't seem to be refusing to greet us out of spite. Rather, he seemed to have fallen silent because he didn't know what else to say to us in greeting.
カノン君は寡黙でさ、余計なおしゃべりはしない性分なんだよ。愛想は少し悪いけど、根はいい人なんだぜ。誤解しないで。ここに勤めて3年になるんだっけ。確かゴーダさんより1年長いんだよな、カノン君。
Even though he wasn't exactly giving a terrible first impression, Jessica hurriedly backed him up. I see. Apparently his unsociable nature causes him trouble a lot.
そっか。よろしくな。俺はバトラ。18だけど、君はいくつだい？
Just go away. He fell silent, as though wondering whether or not it was a question he'd have to answer. But here again, Jessica plowed ahead. We're just gonna... I thought she was gonna like, we're just gonna deflect that question and move on.
はい。そうです。
It looked like he would have preferred not to tell us his age if given the choice. That was probably because he thought we looked down on him for it. I remember that when I was around his age, I hated being asked how old I was by adults. I see, 16, huh? That's gotta be a delicate time. Which means I probably asked something I shouldn't have.
近いとして嬉しいぜ。気さくにバトラって呼んでくれよな。俺も君のことはカノンって呼ぶぜ。
ありがとうございます。お気持ちだけで結構です。バトラ様。
Jessica looked panicky for some reason. She seemed to think my impression of Kanon was getting worse because of his refusal. Well, as a girl, Jessica probably couldn't relate to the fretful male heart at this age. As his elder, even by just 2 years, I took it upon myself to be understanding of that.
カノンさん、もう少し愛想よくはできませんか。笑顔も使用人の義務ですよ。
申し訳ありません。努力します。
ゴーラさん、カノン君もいろいろ頑張ってるんですよ。ねえ。
It looked like he was often warned about being so unsociable. And apparently, he hadn't improved one bit. Goda-san kept his business smile, but let a small sigh of resignation escape.
それではまだ仕事がありますので失礼します。
It looked like Kanon himself was uncomfortable with remaining silent here any longer. Is this a typo or is it my brain working in mysterious ways again? It looked like Kanon himself wasn't comfortable with the remaining silent here any longer. I feel like that's a big typo. After another perfunctory bow, he turned around and started pushing the wheelbarrow again. Just then, the wheelbarrow suddenly wobbled and fell, scattering the load. I guess the wheelbarrow's single wheel got caught in a pebble and lost its balance. That was a grammar error, Heart. Okay, my brain was reading that and I was like, does that work? Just me, old English. This game takes place in '86. This game came out in the mid-2000s, but in universe it's 1986. My brain really said, yo, is that old English? Just all of a sudden they start busting out forsooth. Goda-san urged him to hurry in a quiet voice, as though hinting that it was shameful for a servant to appear clumsy in front of guests. Kanon wordlessly reloaded the wheelbarrow with the fallen objects, as if to say that he understood quite well without being told. He seemed to be fine with the light-looking gardening tools, shovels and such, but he looked like he was having trouble getting his arms around and lifting up some sacks of fertilizer. With a smooth motion, Goda-san took the shovel that Jessica had picked up. Behind him, Kanon-kun was having trouble with the sacks of fertilizer. I lifted up the other bags that had fallen. Of course, they weren't light, but for me it was a piece of cake. Kanon-kun looked at me surprised. It was the face of someone who never would have expected to receive help from a guest. Since Kanon-kun looked like he hadn't yet gone through his growth spurt, he was stuck in with a sort of weak body. This kind of weight might have been too much for him. As soon as the sprite loaded. As they did this, I piled all the stuff back into the wheelbarrow. Yes, the scum energy, Jessica. Just as soon as the sprite loaded again, I was like, yes, I'm blessed. Letting the guests who were supposed to feel welcome see such a disgraceful thing must have been hideously embarrassing for a servant. Pressed by Goda to hurry up and go, Kanon-kun left. I love that sprite. It's just, I do too. It's really good. Without even a twitch in his smile, Goda-san apologized elegantly. You know, Rudolph was doing fine for 2 sentences and then he ended. Just, nah, these are the 2 times you were actually spitting and then you just end. Just you dropped the combo.
ルドルフ様は手厳しゅうございますこと。私ほど使用人で寡黙なものはありませんとも。
Everyone smiled wryly at that obvious lie. Even she herself didn't believe that, not in her wildest dreams. So she must have said it to lighten the mood. Yeah, that's the kind of character Kumasawa Ba-chan used to be. The once stiff atmosphere had cleared up at once thanks to her cheerful smile.
そろそろ荷物を置きたいわね。ゴダさん、部屋割りはどうなってるのかしら。
昨年と同じになっております。さあ、ご案内いたします。どうぞこちらへ。
We headed towards a trim, elegantly simple guest house. This was going to be our temporary quarters for the night. Kanon watched over a hedge as the guests all entered the guest house. Then he let his eyes fall on those heavy sacks of fertilizer piled up in the wheelbarrow. In his mind, he kept going over his previous mistake. Battler, big and strong, had picked up the sacks in front of him, the sacks Kanon couldn't lift himself as if they were feathers. It would be extremely difficult for an observer to guess what emotions that favor had stirred up in Kanon. But as far as he could tell by watching him hang his head, there was something that he just couldn't let go of. Muttered words escaped his lips. But those words he murmured were so soft that they didn't reach even his own ears. Kanon hung his head, slightly biting his lower lip.
Baraの庭園は記憶にあったんだけどよ。このゲストハウスっつうのは記憶にねえな。これ建てたのは最近か？
Torian? Yeah, I think it's Torian. Visitor's Retreat was written on a gate on a gatepost-like thing. But since everyone called it the guest house, I followed their lead. The brand new Western-style guest house, which stood overlooking the roses, had a magnificent design carefully done in harmony with the garden.
正解だよ。立ったのはつい一昨年さ。それ以降は僕たちはこっちに止めさせてもらってるんだよ。
年季の入ったボロ屋敷よりこっちの方が好評みてえだしな。私も自分の部屋をこっちに持ちたいぜ。マリアも持ちたい。持ちたい。
Guess you could say my own house was upper class, but to me it felt completely ordinary compared to the head family. The display of wealth was shocking, as was the fact that they'd built this kind of awesome guest house for guests who came over only a few times a year.
エヴァ様、秀吉様、こちらのお部屋をお使いくださいませ。ルドルフ様、キリエ様はこちらのお部屋をお使いくださいませ。
やっぱりここは綺麗で上品でいいわね。洋風って本当に素敵だわ。
ほんの2、3日なら洋風もええやろが、ずっといて落ち着くのは断固和風やで。日本人は畳の上が一番くつろげるんや。
新しい家を和風にするか洋風にするかで喧嘩してね。お父さんが和風で着工させたのを母さんまだ根に持ってよく言い合いをするんだよ。
ジョージ兄さんのところは両親仲が良くて羨ましいぜ。うちなんか冷め切ったもんさ。
Oof.
そのくせ私の成績の話だけは連帯しやがる。
Oof. All in the room seemed to be for two people. I was grateful since I wasn't going to be forced to share the same room with the old bastard under the pretext that we were family. And anyway, I figured those two wouldn't have been able to enjoy themselves with someone like me around.
何気持ち悪い顔で笑ってんのよ。どうせ下世話なこと考えてるんでしょ。
ゲセアなんてとんでもない。どうぞごゆっくりお過ごしくださいませ。あ、はいででで。言えたよクソ親父。
Once again, Dad pulled my ears from behind.
バカなこと言ってんじゃねえ。ほら胃がキリキリ痛み始めてて、とてもそんな元気はわかんねえぞ。
Called the unlikable trait.
今回はお前が主賓だろうが。
You know, the fact you called it the unlikable trait, like I had a gut feeling.
せいぜい親父や兄貴たちに可愛がられるね。親父の前では言葉遣いにだけ気をつける。あの人、本当にシャレが通じねえからな。ジェシカちゃん、我らが当主様のご機嫌は最近どうなんだ？
Even if Battler gets berated for that creepy side of him, it doesn't mean I like it. Yeah.
去年から相変わらずかな。余命3ヶ月、
You
余
know,
命3ヶ月って割には。
it's kind of something I've slowly noticed the older I got. Because looking back into Higurashi, I'm like, yeah, most of these characters are relatively fun. And then I remember the Doctor exists. And then I sit there like, oh, you exist. I hope it doesn't get that bad, but I'm sitting there here like, please don't be another Doctor situation. I actually like Battler so far. Don't do this. Don't make me go, yo, the brick goes through his window.
カリカリ。イライラしてるって話です。
年も相変わらず不機嫌ってわけ。
Immediately googles how to delete the doctor. Yeah, that's how it goes. Just, man, he seems not.
おもりができるのはやっぱり源氏さんだけなの？
Just the soul disintegrates the frame. Just, I do not wish to see it. I do not wish to be on this earth.
親方様も源氏さんにだけは心を許しておいでのようです。私たち下々では近頃はお目通りすらなかなか叶わず。
また書斎に閉じこもって怪しげな黒魔術三昧じゃねえのかな。
If memory serving as serious as ew nigga gross and never reaches out to buy Home Depot brick stock. Okay. That's bearable. It's unlikable, but it's bearable. Because I actually really like him so far.
何をやろうとてめえの趣味だから構わねえけど、匂いが立ち込める系は勘弁してほしいもんだぜ。ついでにそのまま書斎から永久に出てくんなってんだ。
He's fucking dead now you said that. He's fucking dead now that you said that. You've done this. You've cursed everyone.
年長の人にそんな言い方をするもんじゃないよ。後宮家を復興させてくれた大恩人なんだから、もっと感謝しないと。
Just God sitting in the back. Child, the power of life and death is in what you say. God felt very testy one day for no fucking reason. After being rebuked by George Aniki, Jessica had no choice but to take back her thoughtless remark. The Ushiramiya family was wealthy beyond belief, but of course, that meant all its members were a bit strange and completely out of touch with the world at large. And at the top of the chain, the family head, our grandfather, seemed especially strange and terrifying even for our family. Dad said he was getting a stomach ache earlier, and I imagine that reflected the honest feelings of all the adults here today. No doubt they were jealous of his grandchildren who could just play around and laugh without a care. From the stories Dad told me, the family head was a violent man who ruled with his fist, beating his children, even his daughters, mercilessly with a wooden sword. Oh, there's the pain kicking in. I was wondering, if he was so strict and uptight about that, why couldn't he have been a little more conservative with his kids' name? Because of that, even his grandkids have had to suffer. Anyway, I can't say I have any trouble believing those terrifying stories about him. Don't remember meeting him very often, but I think I can recall him looking extremely grumpy all the time, always making sure people cower in fear with that sharp gaze of his. I like how my brain added making sure. I remember that the room's atmosphere got so tense whenever so begins to remember what this is tied to. Oh god. They remember what this is tied to feelings, okay. I remember that this room's atmosphere got so tense whenever he was around you couldn't even breathe. What my dad said about me being the guest of honor now carries a little more oomph for me.
6年前は俺も小学生だったが、さすがに今は高校生だ。失礼のある態度なんか取ったら大変なことになるかもしれねえな。いい子いい子いい。
確かにこわもてだけど、そんなに硬くなるほど怖い人じゃないよ。決して理不尽なことは言ってないもん。口下手なだけでちゃんと筋は通す人だよ。
ジョージ兄さんは昔から成績優秀で一族の鏡じゃねえかよ。私たちとじゃじい様の待遇が全然違うぜ。 私なんか木刀で引っ叩かれたことあるしよ。尻だぜ尻。それも乙女の生尻をよ。
You didn't. Obviously, you needed to emphasize that sentence more.
ジェシカちゃんは本家の跡取り娘だもん。おじい様も特に目をかけてくれてるんだよ。その厳しさは期待の気持ちの裏返しだと思わなくちゃ。
冗談じゃねえぜ。その跡取りってやつはジョージ兄さんに譲るよ。私が担ぐにはちょいとしんどいぜ。
I think I already said it before, but Jessica's the girl heir to the head family. We're only cousins in branch family, so she probably feels a totally different sort of pressure than we do.
ジェシカお姉ちゃんが重い？マリアが持ったら軽くなる？うん？サンキューな。大丈夫。マリアちゃんには押し付けねえよ。この十字架は私が墓まで背負ってくよ。安心しなって。
She was grateful for Maria's innocent concern, but Jessica's face still seemed to contain some uneasiness she felt towards the future. Maybe we were in the same boat. Any high schooler with exams approaching wouldn't have trouble hiding their anxiety for the future.
マリアいらっしゃい。お母さんとマリアはこの部屋よ。
バトラ君は僕と一緒にこっちの部屋だってさ。
おお、なになに、こりゃ驚いた。親たちの部屋より広めじゃないのよ。わお
Wow! Wow! It threw me for a loop. I thought, wow. This is the wow threw me off. Just wow. Was that a fucking Robot special where the announcer would go, wow? I need to rip the voice files. I'm trying to, like, I used to play the Robot games all the time, like 2 years ago. I'm trying to remember the announcer for Fatal Fury Robot supposed to just go, wow, at some point.
This ここは俺とジョージ兄貴の部屋だが、特別に出入りを許可してやろう。お母さんには内緒だぞ。
Still recovering from that fucking wow. Aunt Rosa was right behind us, but Maria still answered, striking the air with her fist clenched tight. After setting down their luggage in their rooms, our parents gathered again in the corner. Wow. This African guy. Oh my god! Wow! It seemed they were heading to the mansion to announce their arrival. Normally they would make us follow them and greet everyone together. But if that had been the case, Dad would have just told us to come and that'd be the end of it. He's saying it's okay if we don't come, so what will we do? Well, it's gonna be lunchtime before I thought it was monologue again. Wait. I was having too much fun with WoW that I forget I mainly just read the monologue shit.
マリアはここでお留守番してなさい。いたずらをしないでおとなしく待ってるのよ。
Since Maria was being told to house sit here, we certainly couldn't leave her on her own. George Aniki noticed this immediately and gave a clear reply for all of his cousins.
じゃあ僕たちはお言葉に甘えて留守番してようか。1年ぶりに積もる話もあるしね。
それがいいわ。バトラ君なんか6年分積もってるんだしね。
へいへい、お子ちゃまな俺はおとなしくお留守番してるぜ。
熊沢さん、私もこっちに残るからよ。
I feel like this isn't the proper sprite to use here, but it's fine.
あとは大人に任せて若者は退散してるぜ。
Nah, laugh was at the end. It was the good sprite. Wait a minute.
それがおよろしいでしょ。
So far, this sprite has been used in all the good
奥
contexts.
様にはそのようにお伝えいたします。
それでは皆様、お屋敷の方へご案内させていただきます。どうぞこちらへ。
他の子はともかくジョージは成人してるんだから連れて行った方がいいんじゃない？
そんなんでジョージだけ仲間外れはかわいそうやで。いとこ同士の交流も大事や。ほな行ってくるで。
The adults left one after the other. They left in the same formation as our trip from the harbor, with Goda-san leading and Kumasawa-san taking up the rear. As we gathered in the room assigned to his cousins, George Aniki asked us to excuse him for a second. He rushed over to Kumasawa-san, who was following behind the despairing adults, and seemed to ask her something. He soon finished his business and came back.
どうしたんだよ、兄貴。
ああ、なんでもないよ。ちょっと聞きたいことがあっただけさ。
I can't hear Maria going ooh without thinking of Kid Boo, but you know, actually sounding like a child.
何かな。ジョージ兄さんが私に聞かなくて熊沢さんには聞くことってなあ、全然見当がつかねえぜ。
いや、誤解だよ。ジェシカちゃんが何を誤解してるのか知らないけど。
Aniki was getting pretty tongue-tied. It was almost as though he felt guilty about something, and Jessica knew exactly what he was worried about. At any rate, it's no fun if Jessica gets to know about it and not me.
なあマリア、俺たちだけのけ者なんてねえよな。何の話か聞きてえよな。
I think it's the first time we've seen this sprite.
バトラとマリアも聞きたい。バトラとマリアも聞きたい。
I fooled around while oohing together with Maria.
いや、だから大したことじゃ。
さっつけ。兄貴にしちゃ嘘が下手だぜ。拍手しやがれ。マリア、お前は右脇をくすぐれ。俺は左脇だ。
はい。マリアは右脇だ。バトラは左脇だ。
ちょっと二人ともやめて。やめ。
Stop. Maria and I played around chasing George Aniki as he tried to escape, rolling on the bed. I realized high schoolers aren't supposed to bounce around like kittens, but I still missed this kind of fun. A warm, cozy kind of fun. Sosuke, I understand why you love this sprite so much, because every time I see it, just a wide grin shows up on my face regardless of context.
その間に辞めた使用人とか入った使用人とかそういうのがいたら挨拶したいってそういうことらしいぜ。おお、挨拶する。マリアも挨拶する。
なんだよそれ、全然やましくねえじゃねえかよ兄貴。違うな、マリア騙される。兄貴は何か隠してるぞ。
Steal his tech.
尋問再開だ。うおりゃ。やめてよ本当に。マリアちゃんももうやめて。
多分掃除とか昼飯の準備とかで忙しいんだよ。大丈夫、後でちゃんと挨拶に来るぜ。ゴーダの出しゃばりの出迎えよりシャノンの出迎えの方が良かったって言うんだろ。
シャノン？シャノン。ああ、思い出したぜ。そんな子もいたな。今も使用人やってんのか？元気かよ。
Hey, there's the title screen.
そういや夏日姉さん、最近頭痛の方はどうなんや。一時だいぶしんどそうにしとったろ。
おかげで最近はだいぶ調子がいいです。
Forgot to say you're welcome for the thumbnail. Also, I'm sorry I missed these. I forgot to. I'm looking at chat through my phone, so I forgot to set it back to live chat because I went to look at something else real quick. Just get ready to unplug your router mid-match. Ready to take your art code. The scum energy is real.
心配をしてくれてありがとう。
そうだ、これ夏日姉さんにお土産。
いつもありがとう。あなたには何かをもらってばかりね。
You sound incredibly familiar.
これは紅茶？
You sound way too familiar. Wait a minute.
ペパーミントとレモンバームのハーブティー。頭痛によく効くって有名なお店のブレンドなの。姉さんにも効くかなって思って。
Rosa was always a conscientious woman, probably because she was the youngest of four and much younger than the other three. She managed to grow up without gaining the venomous nature of her siblings. Her words caught Nasui to soften her expression for just a moment. but it wasn't enough to melt her stony gaze, hardened as it was by long years of mental stress.
そういえばあなたいっつも頭痛だって言ってたわね。しっかりなさいな。ジェシカちゃん、今年は受験でしょ。人生の節目じゃない。母親のあなたがそんなじゃ頼りないわよ。
Sailor Jupiter and Naruto's mom.
それに夏日
Okay.
私より3つも若いんだから。
I've never heard Kushina in Japanese, so that's not where I recognize that voice from. But you've always had fun, alcoholic energy.
もうちょっとしっかりなさい。
ごめんなさい。生まれつきの頭痛持ちなもので。
Even under normal circumstances, Eva sometimes failed to choose her words carefully. But her comments aimed at Natsuhi contained shards of obvious malice, though she hid it with a smile. Of course, that fact didn't escape Natsuhi. She frantically contained her urge to grimace and pretended to ignore Eva.
うちのバトラ君も今年は受験でしょ。ルドルフさんも少しは関心を持ったら。自分の息子のために夏日姉さんみたいに頭痛になるくらい真剣になりなさいよ。
俺が何か言えば必ず反抗するやつだぜ。じゃあなんて言うんだ。むしろ逆で遊んでていいぞっていうのか。あいつそういうのだけは素直に聞きやがるぜ。秀吉兄さんのところは受験本当にうまくいったじゃないですか。ぜひ子供操縦術の秘訣を教えてくださいね。
そうやな。何のために勉強するのかっちゅうことを説いたかもしれんな。個々の勉強に意味があるわけやないんや。そう、勉強っちゅうのはわからんことを自分で調べて身につけるという行為の練習なんや。これができんやつは社会に出ても使い物にならん。国語算数ができろと言ってるんやない。勉強し身につけることを学べっちゅうことやな。
ご立派ですわ。うちのジェシカにもそれが理解できればいいんだけど、今のままではとてもじゃないけど後ろ宮家の跡取りとしては。
いいじゃないの、無理に跡取りにしなくても。女には女の幸せというものもあるんだし、それを親が押し付けちゃ悪いわよ。
予算買えば子供の育て方は家それぞれや。押し付けがましいのはあかんで。
ごめんなさい。夏日姉さんも気を悪くしないでね。
Though the light shining into the windows was quite warm, despite the cloudy weather, there was a dark mood about the room, which was probably causing headaches for more than just Natsui. As if to sweep away that mood, Kyrie brightly made its suggestion to all present.
でも本当に素敵な香りの紅茶ね。早速いただいてみましょうよ。レオポルドの紅茶なんて日本じゃ確か銀座でしか買えなかったはずよ。
キリエ姉さんはお詳しいですね。買ってきた甲斐がありました。
Kyrie and Rosa stood up from their seats and made as if to prepare the black tea, but Natsuhi forestalled them. That is a new word.
それは後でいただきましょう。うちの者がすぐお茶を持ってきますので、
どうぞおくつろぎください。
二人とも後にしろよ。ウェルカムドリンクくらいごちそうになろうぜ。
I appreciate how Man actually did say welcome drink in English. Rudolph gave a subtle signal with his eyes for them to sit down again. Kyrie and Rosa understood instantly and obediently returned to their seats. The initial greeting of the guests was complete, so it was time for them to be served some tea. It was embarrassing for the host that the tea was late, especially now that the guests were talking about making tea themselves. Natsui bit her lower lip, frustrated by the ineptitude of the servants who were late bringing in the tea. Seeing her face, Eva immediately started to giggle. Of course, Shannon had no way of knowing what was taking place in the parlor. She came pushing a serving cart piled with teacups. For no apparent reason, Natsuhi gave her a pained look, and Shannon couldn't help but flinch without knowing what she had done wrong. You're also in the fighting game. Every time I come across a character I remember being in Golden Fantasia, that is going to be one of the first things I say.
おう、シャノンちゃん、久しぶりやの。ますますべっぴんさんになりよったな。
いえ、どうも。
おしゃべりは配膳を済ませてからになさい。お茶が冷めます。
申し訳ございません、奥様。
She apologized like a small frightened animal, bumps against the serving cart, and made a jarring racket as she dropped several teaspoons. Her clumsiness made Natsuhi's expression turn even darker, which made Shannon quail even more.
いいのよ、夏日姉さん。挨拶の一つくらいしたってどうってことないわよ。もう十分待たされてる分、十分お茶も冷めてるもの。
それは大丈夫です。冷めてはおりませんので。
シャノン、早く配膳を済ませなさい。
失礼しました、奥様。
Natsuhi's irritation was obvious by now. The ineptitude that delayed the tea, the clumsiness of the servant, everything pointed to the incompetence of Natsuhi's everyday leadership, making her lose face. Lose clout. As the person in charge of the Shiromiya had family's kitchen, allowing that clumsiness to be exposed today of all days was surely nothing less than total humiliation.
よせよ、夏日姉さん。シャノンちゃんだって頑張ってるのに、いじめちゃかわいそうだぜ。
いじめてなんかいません。
いい香りね。お茶の銘柄を聞いてもいいかしら。
申し訳ございません。後ほど調べてまいります。
Kyrie was trying to be nice, hoping to cut through the tense mood. However, Shannon had embarrassed herself instead, darkening Natsui's face in the room's mood. By this point, Eva was audibly giggling.
なーに？シャノンちゃん、自分で入れてるものが何かもわからないの？ダメよ。そんな怪しげなものを来客に振る舞っちゃ。こんなお茶じゃ銀のスプーンでもないと飲めないわよ。
すみません。すぐに用意を。
ねえシャノンちゃん、銀のスプーンって何に使うか知ってる？銀じゃないとダメなのよ。なぜかわかる？
いえ、
A teasing smile rose to Eva's face as she stared at Shannon setting the table. By itself, Eva's expression was sweet in an impish sort of way. However, the words being spun from her lips held the keenness of a razor within them. Shannon tried with all her might to avoid Eva's continuing gaze. Realizing that Shannon was hard-pressed for an answer, Rosa gave some timely help.
銀は毒に触れると曇るって言われてるの。シャノンちゃんも一つお勉強ができたわね。
They were acting as though the tea needed to be tested for poison before it could be drunk. And not to his eyes, this was an insult to both the tea and to herself for serving it. Rudolph laughed flippantly and patted Eva's shoulder.
姉貴に銀食器なんていらねえだろ。毒舌の姉貴が人なめしたら銀の皿だって真っ黒に曇ってしまうぜ。
わしはその毒舌を毎日聞かされとるからもう毒に耐性がついてしもたわ。
Local man above poison, you love to see it.
今もわし相手には構わんが耐性のない相手にはちと加減せんとな。
あらあらひどい。シャノンちゃんにお茶の知識を教えてあげただけじゃない。
Everyone followed the lead set by Hideyoshi's horse laugh and chuckled, though not easily. Only Natsuhi didn't join in, but for the time being, the conversation inside the parlor could now be mistaken for a lively and friendly chat. As Shannon finally finished setting the tea table and tried to leave, Kyrie apologized to her in a low voice for not being able to help. Shannon gave a light bow and made a hasty retreat. Shannon cast her eyes downward as she pushed the cart down the corridor. Anyone seeing the pitiful way she looked might have easily concluded that she had been bullied in some way.
気を落とさないで。姉さんは何も悪くない。
見てたのね。
そういうお役目だから。奥様もエヴァ様も地獄へ落ちろ。でもそれより卑劣なのはあいつだ。
Kanon glared hatefully in the opposite direction of the parlor. The preparation for the tea had been delayed along some trifling problems in the kitchen. These problems were not Shannon's fault. In fact, it had been Goda's mistake. After all, there was no way a show-off like Goda would give up a flashy job like bringing in the tea when the guests arrive. He had ended up wasting time preparing the tea once again. So when he realized he wouldn't be able to score any points for this job, he pushed the task of setting the table on Shannon, who happened to be passing by. You might call it a clever move on his part, but there could be no doubt that it was a cowardly one.
いいの。ありがとう、カノン君。
So Goda may be a secret bitch, you hate to see it.
私、全然気にしていないし。
Kanon's silence vividly expressed the distance between Shannon's words and how she actually felt.
ありがとう。カノン君だけでも分かってくれたんで、ちょっと心が楽になったかな。
姉さんは心にいろいろ溜め込みすぎる。たまには自分に優しくしてあげて。
うん、ありがとうね。
Suddenly, they both felt someone's presence in the world around. A middle-aged man stood there. It was Genji, the head servant. I think he's also in the fighting game.
はい、失礼いたしました。
No, not him. Oh, okay, my bad. I remembered seeing the name Reno. Oh no, it's like Renove or whatever his name is. That's who I mistook him for. Different guy. My bad. Shannon humbly obeyed and promptly made to push the cart and leave. However, Kanon appealed to Genji in silence, bearing something in his eyes that he could not express in words.
どうした？何かあった？
シャノンは何も悪くないのに、あいつら。
やめてカノン君。失礼しました。すぐに仕事に戻ります。カノン君も自分の持ち場に戻って。お願い。
姉さんがそう言うな
何
ら。
事もないならそうしなさい。
はい、失礼します。
From the shadows in the hallway, an old woman wearing an apron watched over them. It was Kumasawa.
おいたわしや、シャノンさん、カノンさん。あの二人がいじめられる理由は何もないのです。しかし、ゴーダさんに嫌われているのは紛れもない。
Okay, so Goda-san is a bitch, duly noted.
ゴーダさんは後ろ宮本家へいらっしゃられるまでどこかの立派なホテルにお勤めだったそうです。そこで身につけられたというお仕事ぶりはそりゃ大したものだとは思います。ただゴーダさんはここでは最も年季の短い使用人。ご自身のそれまでの積み重ねによるプライドもあられたのでしょう。彼は自分より長い年季を持ちながらも未熟で人生経験も及ばないシャノンさんとカノン君をことあるごとにいびられるのです。また気の毒なことに夏日奥様にも嫌われております。もちろん年季という意味では奥様の方が長くこの家におられます。ただこればかりは奥様にも同情しなくてはなりません。本当に親方様も罪作りな方でございます。ご自身のちょっとした気まぐれが奥様にこれほどまでの劣等感をお与えになるとはどうして。もちろん奥様とて内心はあの二人に辛く当たる言われは何もないことを重々承知してはおります。しかしそれが理屈で分かっているからといってどうにもならないのが人の心。ああ、ほいたわし。私には何もできずこうして物陰から見守ることしかできないのです。
The four of his cousins were enjoying our stories, just shooting the breeze. Anyway, there were both girls and guys here. Plus, we had people over a wide spread of ages, adult, high school, and elementary school. Even if we just talked about our own lives, the other three kept listening attentively.
なんかやっと馴染んできたぜ。ジェシカもマリアも6年前からは想像もつかないくらい成長しちまったからよ。正直なところ少しだけ違和感を持ってたんだが、こうして話をしているうちに中身はあの頃から何も変わってないことが分かったぜ。
同じ言葉を返してやるよ。バトラだって6年ぶりだってのに全然変わってねえぜ。図体がいくらでかくなっても中身は相変わらずお子様だってことだな。マリアもお子様。マリアもお子様。
マリアだっていつまでもお子様じゃねえぞ。お子様から可愛いお姫様に成長してくんだからな。そうしたらまな板みてえな胸も すぐ金網になるぞ。
Battler, this what you not finna say. Battler, that was not necessary to this conversation. You could have just not said it.
そしたら回してくれよ。約束だぞ。
Battler, this is not the. Yeah, it's really not. It's really not. Hang on. I have something for this. Guards, this nigga has lost his goodness. I love how I can do this now. Also, I noticed the display is scrunched again. God damn it. I realized I could do that now. Oh, wait a minute. Also, I haven't gotten then transform. Now center to screen. There we go. It's been I've had the aspect ratio wrong the whole time, and I just now noticed it popping into OBS. I am so fucking sorry. This is why, unlike other fighting game characters who got Neji double choices, Garp. That's what we're not finna do.
ダメだよマリアちゃん。そんな約束しちゃダメ。
約束したから揉ませる。
Well, time to go digging in the image folder again for this, cause nah. There's some. This ain't it, Reggie. I'm having too much fun with that. I need to stop. I'm gonna have fun with that in the future. Mm-mm.
マリア、お前本当に素直ないい子だな。お前と結婚する未来の旦那さんはきっと幸せ者だぜ。
っていい話にすり替えつつ約束を保持してんじゃねえぜ。マリア、その約束はなし。約束取り消し。
We're canceling prom. We're dream canceling the promise.
やっぱりバトラ君も揃って4人で集まらないといとこが集合した気がしなかったね。この6年はやっぱり寂しかったよ。
そうだな。こういうふざけた話にはならなかったな。でも建設的な話はできてたと思ったぜ。将来に対する心構えとか受験とか就職とかよ。
へっへー、悪うございましたね。俺が来たらおまぬけなドタバタばっかりでよ。
が楽しい。
I think I haven't seen this right before either.
そうだね。僕も同感。今年が一番楽しいよ。
Maria's sincere words probably spoke for everyone present. George Aniki stroked Maria's head as she giggled like a happy kitten.
失礼いたします。お食事のご用意ができました。
A timid knocking sound and the equally timid voice of a young woman came through the door. Jessica answered brightly.
シャノン、入れよ。バトラは覚えてるだろ。
Jessica stood up from the bed and opened the door. There stood a servant girl who must have been about our age.
ご無沙汰いたしております。バトラ様。6年ぶりでございます。シャノンです。
Trembling a little as she noticed me, she bowed deeply.
ジェシカにも驚かされたが、シャノンちゃんにも驚かされたぜ。あんたもすっかり美人になったじゃねえのよ。
もったいないお言葉、強烈に存じます。
しかしよ、この島じゃよっぽど食の栄養価が高いんじゃねえのか。何を食ってどこを鍛えたらそんなにでっかいお胸になるんだか。
They ain't related. Okay, fair. I was about to say, please don't tell me they're related, because I don't want to disown him again, man. I don't want to disown this man. Oh.
ちょいと触って確かめさせてもらうぜ。
Well, back to the image folder I go one more time. Here we go again. Actually, do I have that one on my computer? I don't think I do. I think it's only on my phone. Where I just edit the one fucking Shion frame just going fucking simp. That may be phone only. That may be phone only, but I have something that also works on the phone with, yeah, so scared. I remember just on the phone with God. He said he hated you. With both hands poised and saliva dribbling from my mouth, I closed it. For the sake of justice and my personal honor, I'd like to point out that I don't suffer from some strange disease that makes my lymph nodes itch until I scratch my neck open, and which can be only prevented by fondling breast. I appreciate the Higurashi reference, but not in this context. This is just a battler-style method of communication. If I slowly close in on her like this, odds are 8 or 9 out of 10 that I get slapped or clobbered, right? So I can use this Battler-sama original technique to spark a gag like that and break the ice. Well, it also means I really do get to touch them on that 1 in 10 chance, though, right? I just wonder what he's doing. Yeah, like that ever happened. At that point, my hands were less than a centimeter away from... You can tell by my voice that's not even me putting on a voice, it's me actually dying reading this. The counter-strike had yet to come. She blushed and lowered her head in embarrassment when she realized what was going on. She just stood there with both hands politely joined in front of her, not even trying to resist or cover them. Like I'd want to touch a titty too, but yeah. That's why I'm sitting there like, nigga, have class. What's wrong with you? Hey, I wasn't planning on this. Please hit me right now, or seriously, I'm gonna... Which is why I was glad Jessica chose that time to dive her elbow into the back of my head. Okay, at least he wanted to be stopped.
いやいや、すまんぜシャノンちゃん。魅力的な胸に思わず吸着されそうになっちまった。つうか、さすがにあの間合いまで来たら犯罪確定だろ。ダメだぜ、抵抗しなきゃよ。
ですけど。
There was no need for a more... Yeah.
バトラ様は大切なお客様ですし。
あのな、お客様でも犯罪は犯罪。女の子の胸はだいたい10センチくらいからが防空識別圏だな。2センチ圏まで侵入してきたら、これはもう領空侵犯だぜ。スクランブル発進で即ビンタを食らわせてやれ。
Man said you need to counter hard. Of course she didn't. What if her guest desired, she was prepared to sacrifice herself to suit their wants. A girl like this needs some urgent protection.
今時こんな献身美徳な子がいるとは。軽いめまいすら覚えるぜ。でもダメだ。ダメなんだ。俺がいやらしい顔で迫る。ハットハウス。いやエッチ。そういうお約束じゃないとオチがつかねえんだよ。頼むよ、お願いだよ。こうバチンと。
Just can't end until you deliver the punchline. I was gonna say, I know this is Daisuke Ono and not Takahiro Koyasu, but I'm not gonna lie. If you told me Daisuke Ino did a stand-in voice for Shingo, I'd believe you, cause bits of it sound pretty similar. Just sir, I am a table. I can't contribute to the bit. Battler is smart, but to his own detriment. Catastrophic.
じゃあ命令させてもらうことにするよ。次からバトラ君が胸に触ろうとしてきたら平手打ちで反撃すること。いいね。
はい、仰せつかりました。以後そのようにさせていただきます。バトラ様、ご承知おきくださいませ。
I'm waiting for her to bust him through a wall. This was radiant. Okay, I actually didn't read that. Shannon announced this while bowing elegantly to me. Her expression was radiant. I gave her a thumbs up and showed her I was fine with that.
6年前はお手伝いさんの連れ子がついでにお手伝いみたいな印象だったんだけど、すっかり一人前の使用人さんだな。今年で何年になるんだ？
はい、おかげさまで10年ほどお仕えさせていただいております。
She's... You know, I'm gonna give up on the bit where I just make random noises. Because, like, I already know the name, so I'm just assuming it just is Shannon in Japanese. The kanji for her name is read as Shannon. Here's another name that's far from typical for a Japanese person. Back in the day, I was a kid myself, so I accepted her name without paying it much attention. Thinking about it now, though, her name's pretty unusual, even though she's not a member of the Yoshiromiya family. Maybe it's like a servant's professional name or something? If so, that might explain why her name's similar to Kanon-kun, that kid I met earlier at the Rose Garden. She's a long-term servant who served her since she was 6 years old. Her appearance had changed so much that I couldn't match her to the person of my memories, but we both knew each other 6 years ago. That shy part of her had always been there, but she did seem to have developed the allure you would expect of a girl her age. Back to the image folder. Like, I understand, but at the same time, I'm not gonna pretend, oh god, the image is too big. Oh god, the image is too big, it's too strong. Niggas are once again wild.
さっき会ったカノ君は彼女の弟なんだよ。
弟というわけでは。でも私のことを姉と慕ってくれます。何か失礼なことはしませんでしたか？相変わらずいつも通りだぜ。もうちょっと愛想よくすればいいのによ。もったいないやつ。カノン君がご迷惑をおかけしたようで申し訳ございません。
別に迷惑なんか何も。同じ男としてわかるさ。ありゃ気難しい年頃だ。愛想が悪いのは当たり前だぜ。よく言われる。愛想悪いって言われる。カナンと一緒。
マリア様は愛想悪くなんかありません。一緒がよかった。
No, Maria, you get called rat.
食事の準備ができたんだっけ？
はい、失礼いたしました。
Wait, shit, you're right. Sasuke 2020, I think, no, 2019 was the year of the rat, wasn't it? It was either 2019 or 2020 that was the year of the rat. One of those years was her year. Shannon bowed again formally and returned to her duty mode. We realized that if we made her stick around for any more light conversation, it would actually make it harder for her to do her job. 19 was rat, okay. I'm not gonna lie, I only remember that because that's when I started seeing art of Vikala from Grand Blue. So I sat there like, oh, you're the rat. That's a cute OC somebody made. What do you mean it's tied to a gacha? Just, I see Vikala. That's a cute OC. What do you mean this is a fucking gacha character?
じゃあ、お屋敷に行こうか。
So, I'm doing it
みん
again.
なもお腹が空いてたところでしょ。
だな。ゴーダさんがいる時の飯は楽しみなんだよ。あの人、どこぞの有名ホテルでシェフをやってたらしくて、かなり料理の腕があるんだぜ。
They just appear. They just walk up to the main mansion. Just go to some dead on the fucking floor. Damn.
ほうほう。それ おうぜマリア。ガツガツ犬みたいに食い散らかすぞ。
犬みたいに食い散らかす。
ダメダメ。バトラ君の言うことはいちいち真に受けちゃダメだよ。全部冗談なんだから。さあ行こう行こう。
Under Shannon Chan's guidance, we headed towards the mansion. Met once again by the magnificent rose garden, we continued onward as the intimidating mansion of the Ushiramiya head family came into view. It had apparently been built shortly after the war, so you could feel the dignity of almost a half-century hanging about it. The building was gorgeous on the surface, but old as it was, equipment such as its AC and heating were apparently quite frail. According to Jessica, midwinter was especially tough, what with all the drafts. Haven't these people ever heard of a kotatsu? Resident Evil. As we entered the entrance hall, an aged servant greeted us. Now him, I remember. Genji-san, who had been working here longer than anyone, filled the role of head servant. As our eyes met, he greeted me with a calm, composed voice. His bow wasn't as graceful or refined as Goda's, but despite its simplicity, it communicated his feelings very well.
Genji-san, 本当にお久しぶりっす。お元気そうですね。
おかげさまで健やかに過ごさせていただいております。バトラ様こそご立派になられました。親方様の若き日に少し似てこられました。
俺がじい様にってことは、さぞやじい様は若い頃モテたろうな。
ここからはシャノンに代わって私がご案内申し上げます。どうぞこちらへ。
Shannon Chan bowed deeply and watched us leave. After that, we headed towards the dining room under Genji-san's guidance. Genji-san, just like Kumasawa-san, stood in stark contrast to us young people who had grown beyond recognition over the last 6 years. His appearance was exactly the same as in my memories from 6 years ago. It was as though time had stopped since we last met. Genji-san was an extremely quiet and diligent person. He was basically grandfather's close aide or caregiver. And you might even call him grandfather's companion of many years. In fact, it seems he was by grandfather's side even more often than my late grandmother was. According to Jessica, grandfather trusted him more than any of his blood relatives. But I wonder how long he served. I never got the details, but I heard something about him being here since the very beginning, when this mansion was first constructed. Which would mean that he's dedicated half his life to serving here. It's easy to see why he's so trusted. As we passed through a massive hall that extended up into the second story of the mansion with no separating floor, I spotted something that hadn't existed in my memory of 6 years ago. Lying in wait to say the thing that I've been waiting to say for a while. Lying in wait. There's an awfully big portrait hanging in front of the stairs that rose to the second floor. Without thinking, I stopped walking, captivated by it. Since I'd stopped so fast, Maria, who was following me behind me, ran into my back.
な絵前はあったっけ？
I pointed at the big, prominently displayed portrait in the hall. Everyone else stopped too.
ああ、そっか。バトラが来てた頃にはあれはかけられてなかったっけ？いつからだったかな。
確か僕の記憶が正しければ一昨年あたりだったと思うよ。
さようでございます。一昨年の4月に親方様がかねてより画家に命じて描かせていたものをあそこに展示なされたのでございます。
あのじいさまがね、わざわざ描かせたとか。
The portrait suited this Western mansion, and the woman in the elegant dress gave off a sense of refinement. I couldn't have guessed her age, but her sharp eyes and the strong will she seemed to possess made her look youthful. I'm waiting for the face to change or the hand to just reach out of the frame. She seemed somehow different from the composed middle-aged women you often see in famous pictures. If she had had normal black hair, I might have assumed it was a portrait of my long-deceased grandmother in her prime. However, she had beautiful blonde hair and didn't look Japanese at all.
で、誰だい？このご婦人はよ。
Just who is this lady? Just hand reaches through. You'll find out soon, boy. Maria answered that simple question enthusiastically, as though proud she knew the answer.
ベア、なんだっけ？
ベアトリーチェ。魔女だよ。バトラ君は昔聞かされたことない？
魔女？ってこの島の？
I think I already said this, but Rokanjima is a small island, only 10 kilometers in circumference. However, that's actually pretty massive considering that only the Ushiromiya family lives here. So the only harbor in the area and around the mansion were set up to be lived in. So only the harbor and area around the mansion were set up to be lived in. Beyond that, the island remained as untouched as when it was uninhabited. The vast empty forest had absolutely no lights, phones, or people passing through. To understand how dangerous that is, you need to forget your common sense as a city dweller. After all, if you happen to fall down a hole in the depths of the forest and sprain your ankle, no one would come to save you, no matter how much you cried or screamed. Then once the sun went down, the forest would be wrapped in complete darkness since there were no streetlights. And since there were no signs, it'd be easy to get lost and confused, losing your sense of direction inside that dark forest. Nowadays, most people see a forest as a peaceful place. But to the people of bygone eras, before the light of civilization drove out the night, forests were as geographically separated from civilizations as the sea. There were oceans above ground. Fishermen who go out into the ocean are putting their lives at risk, despite their technical knowledge. In the same way, hunters who go out to the forest are in danger, despite having specialized knowledge of their own. If children were to go playing in such a dangerous forest, something terrible might happen. Someone's parents must have thought so. Maybe grandmothers first said it. Maybe it was grandfather himself. Or perhaps the story has been passed down on this island since ancient times. There's a terrible witch in the forest, so you must not go in. At some point, this ghost story of Orokanjima was born. This is the legend of Rokanjima's witch. That's why, when we talk about a witch on this island, we're referring to the master of that vast and savage forest. Come to think of it, when I stayed at this mansion as a little kid, during those eerie nights when the wind and rain pounded on the windows, I remember being terrified by a story of the forest witch who roamed around searching for human sacrifices. So, Beatrice, huh? When Anki mentioned it, I searched my memory and I was sure I recalled hearing a name like that when I was little.
なるほどな。しかし、あの魔女伝説の魔女にベアトリーチェなんておしゃれな名前がついてたとはとんと忘れてたぜ。じいさま、孫たちが信じないもんだからわざわざ絵に描きやがったか。
じいさまの妄想の中の魔女だよ。この絵を掲げた頃から現実と幻想の区別がつかなくなり始めた。私たちにとっては想像の中の魔女に過ぎないけど、じいさまにとっては彼女はこの島にいる存在。いる。だからそれを理解することができない私たちにも分かるようあの絵を描かせたって言うんだけど、気持ち悪いったらありゃしないぜ。
お嬢様、親方様にとっては大切な肖像画です。親方様の前でそのようにおっしゃられることがございませんよ。固くお願い。
分かってるぜ。頼まれても言わねえよ。
Jessica glanced at the portrait with an irritated gaze before turning away.
行こうよ。食堂にみんなを待たせてるよ。
Only a small portion of this island was controlled by the Ushiramiya family. All of the lawless remainder was the domain of the witch Beatrice. You might even call her the true ruler of Rokenjima. I felt a faint revival of that unsettling sense of misfortune, which I felt I learned was the tutelary god's shrine. I learned of the tutelary god's shrine being struck by lightning. And I remembered that Kumasala-san tried to tell an ominous story about Rokenjima before Jessica stopped her. I don't know what she was planning to tell us about this island, but I do know one thing. It isn't the Ushiramiya family that rules Rokenjima. It's the witch Beatrice. That's right. After all, this is the witch's island. When I looked around, everyone was already heading towards the dining room. I hurriedly chased after them. We walked up to the huge double doors that led to the dining room. Genji-san knocked. The doors were opened and we were invited inside. Every time, like I'm expecting like hard cut to everything, everyone is dead. The dining room, which looked exactly like you'd imagine a rich person's dining room to be, had a super long table that was obviously positioned with no purpose other than to make the guests conscious of their rank. Our parents were already sitting in accordance to that with that ordering. The old bastard pressed us to sit. The only gaps in that group of people were the spots we were supposed to sit, which only made us feel our tardiness all the more. The seat at the head of the table, called the incipient's chair, was for the most highly ranked, reserved for grandfather. It was still empty. He probably wanted to show up last for dramatic effect. So does no one know he's pretty much dead because, prologue happened? From the perspective of someone facing the incipient's chair head on, the seating order went from left to right, with the lower ranking seats progressing in rows of 2 further away from it. So the left-hand side of the first row, closest to the incipient's chair, was where Uncle Kraus should have sat, since he was the second highest in rank. It looked like he hadn't arrived yet, so that seat was empty. Across from his chair on the right side of the first row sat the elder The elderliest. My brain was really about to say elderliest. Oldest daughter of the family, Aunt Eva, who was the third highest in rank. Left-hand side of the second row was the fourth highest in rank. There sat Madame Dad, Rudolph, the third of the siblings. Across from him on the right side of the second row sat Aunt Rosa, the youngest sibling. At this point, you might expect their husbands and wives to come next. But nope. Left-hand seat in the third row, rank number 6, belonged to Jessica. Opposite to her was George Aniki. I sat next to Jessica, and Maria sat across from me. Then finally, next to me on the left-hand side of the fifth row, sat Aunt Natsuki, 10th highest in rank. Opposite to her was Uncle Hideyoshi. Next to Aunt Natsuhi in the 6th row, in the final seat on the left-hand side, sat Kyrie-san. The seat opposite to Kyrie-san was empty, even though silverware had been set there and everything. According to this ranking system, that spot was where Aunt Rose's husband should be sitting. Even though he wasn't supposed to be coming, his place was made up. Normally, ranking systems of this sort give spouses equal positions as their partners, but the Ushiromiya family system was quite unique. Maybe it's a remnant of male chauvinism. If you start with the assumption that a woman's womb is just something to be borrowed, then the children of that direct descent would come first, directly followed by their grandchildren. In other words, spouses have no blood ties and are therefore placed at the end of the line. It's terrible, but by this system, my grandmother would be ranked even lower than me if she was still alive. In their youth, they obey their father. After they get married, their husband. After aging, their children. There's an old saying, women have no home in any realm. Long ago, when I was still incapable of figuring all this out, I thought it was so great that we could all chat in our little groups, adult siblings with adult siblings and cousins with cousins. However, now that I can re-examine the seating order after growing up a bit, it stirs up some very complicating feelings in me. Aunt Natsuhi, who was married to the eldest son and the de facto number 2 in managing this family, why did this stop opening? Sat to my right, which meant that she was 2 steps lower than me in the ranking order. It was hard to imagine what might be going on inside her heart, so I made a small apologetic gesture towards her before sitting down. $180 centimeters. All right. Time to find the strat. $5'9". Wow. Yeah, base 180 centimeters is around 5'9". Well, that's still pretty good, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, he'd be like, what, 7 inches shorter than me? That's better than, yo, why are you 5? Just looking at them, yo, why are you so small? For a Japanese man, yeah, that's what I meant. Cause I'm still not over. Man, this character looks like they'd be over 6 feet. They're actually 5'4". Damn, he's tall. He's actually not that tall. After a short pause, she did laugh with me, but it seems she couldn't figure out what she was supposed to be laughing at. This woman is Aunt Natsui. She's the wife of the eldest son of the family, meaning she's my father's oldest brother's wife. Is it simpler if I just call her Jessica's mother? Yes. It feels bad to say it like this. Well, I didn't exactly dislike her. I didn't particularly like her either. She hardly ever spoke with us kids, and all my memories of her involve her talking to the adults about complicated things with this scary look on her face. Yes. In fact, since we hardly ever exchange words, I spent a long time trying to figure out how I should approach her. Jesus, Battler, why so smart yet so fucking dumb? It's just like the one Jimmy Neutron bit where he calls the salt sodium chloride or some shit, and everyone's like, Jimmy, what the fuck are you talking about? The silverware sat neatly on the table, but the meal itself hadn't been brought in yet. As a general rule, you couldn't start a meal until the person sitting at the head of the table arrived. So as long as grandfather didn't come, lunch would be put on hold indefinitely. Not even the appetizers would arrive. Simply put, the silence in this room was caused by our parents enduring their hunger while they waited for grandfather to arrive. However, the grandfather from my memories would always show up on time to meals like this. He was the kind of person who would never be so late that it kept everyone waiting, especially after the entire group had arrived.
遅えな、じいさま。俺の記憶じゃ時間に厳格な人だったと思うんだけどな。
まあ6年前はそうだったかもな。最近はそうでもねえよ。というかもう自分の世界オンリーって感じで会食にも顔を出さねえぜ。
He's fucking dead.
さすがに今日くらいは足並みを揃えてくれる
He's
と思って
fucking
たん
dead.
だけどな。まあ私は来ない方が気楽で嬉しいけどよ。
I mean, I'm pretty sure he's fucking dead.
Jessica.
That's just my sentiment. Like, if he's not dead, I'll genuinely shocked. But I remember the prologue now. He gone. No, hang on. When her mother scolded her, Jessica stuck out her tongue and looked away. No way around it. Might as well wait until our host arrives. When I glanced at the clock, I saw that it was almost 12:20. Ushiramiya Kenzo, the aged family head of the Ushiramiya head family. This man could be seen in his study. The clock had already passed noon, but he didn't even attempt to rise from his seat. With his spectacles on, he built up a growing pile of books with elaborate bindings, which he then read intently. You couldn't really say that he was having too much fun to stop. Rather, he filled the room with a sense of impatience, or perhaps a sense of impending danger, as though every second wasted was a tragedy. In this sealed room, a dense dust danced through the air, which was thick with the stench of chemicals that exuded a mix of suspicious odors. Those odors were somehow sweet and heavy. If anyone with a normal nose came in here, the first thing they'd do would be to open a window and ventilate the room. The knocking against the study door had been going on for a while. A voice calling father sometimes mingled with the knocks. As Kenzo heaved a deep sigh, he shut the old book in his hands and slammed it open on the table. He then yelled at Kraus, who was still knocking on the door. Okay, so never mind, I was wrong. Just me. Nah, he dead.
どうかおいでください。
Kraus called out to his father through the door. Kenzo always shut himself up in the study, hating it when nearly anyone, even his family, entered the room. For that reason, Kraus had no choice but to call to him from the corridor like this.
私にかがうでない。皆とは何か、私をここから引きずり出そうとする者どもなのか。ならば殺してしまい。バラバラにして薪にして魔女の炉にくべてしまい。その炉には鍋をかけて苦いおもぎを煮るがいい。
Oh God.
白くも煮汁はそれでも私をここから連れ出そうとするバカ者どもに飲ませてやれ。
He got de-rezzed. Oh God.
残りは酒につけるのだ。ああ、源氏はどこだ。源氏を呼べ。苦害の魔酒を用意させろ。緑の妖精のささやきが届かぬ。ああ、源氏はどこだ。源氏を呼べ。
Kenzo is a JRPG villain to his core. You know, I felt that. I admittedly kind of felt that. On the other side of the door, Kraus, Nanjo, and Genji kept waiting for the master of the house, who stubbornly refused to come out. Why is he the whitest looking person?
すっかり嫌われてしまったようだ。もう私の声では何も届かんよ。
Kraus shrugged as though saying it's no use and smiled bitterly. From the beginning, he hadn't really accepted his father to respond to his calls. However, since it was the duty of the eldest son, he had tried as a formality.
金蔵さん、あんたの顔を見に息子や娘や孫たちが来てるんじゃないか。ちょっと顔を見せてやったらどうだね。うるさい、黙れ。私に意見するというか南條。貴様など呼んではおらぬ。私は源氏を呼べと言ったのだ。さあ急げ、すぐに呼べ。時間は常に有限だ。人たちはすでにラッパを構えているぞ。なぜにそれがわからぬか、愚かな羊どもめ。
Kenzo slammed an old heavy book against the table over and over. That racket clearly expressed his great displeasure. Kenzo put his spectacles down and flew up from his chair. He spread his arms wide open as if to sing to a packed opera house, as if appealing to someone, and yelled.
なぜだ。なぜにいつも私には邪魔が入るのか。すべてを捨てよう。すべてを捧げよう。その見返りに私は一つしか求めないというのに。おお、ベアトリーチェ。お前の微笑みをもう一度見られるならば、私は世界中から美少を奪い取り、すべてをお前に捧げよう。おお、イナゴの軍団長たちよ。世界中から美少を刈り取り収穫せ。すべてが汚らわしい。すべてが煩わしい。なぜこの貴重な一日に私は邪魔を受けねばならぬのか。
Is it wrong that I'm waiting for him to keel over and die? Is it really wrong that I'm waiting for him to keel over and die? Nah, okay, good. I was sitting there like, you know, so if the dude was dead on the floor frame one, let me tell you why I'd feel emotionless. I have no idea what he's yelling about.
もう頭がどうにかなっているのだろう。クラウスさん、実のお父さんにそりゃあんまりじゃないかね。親父はすでに死んでいる。ここにいるのは親父だったものの幻さ。いずれにせよ本人にここを出る意志がない以上どうにもならない。
Choking coughs continued to pour from the study.
私は下に戻る。ゴーダの自慢のランチをこれ以上無駄に冷ましてしまうことはない。親類たちにとって当家での数少ない楽しみだろうからな。
Kraus spun around. He looked at his watch, mumbling and acting as if though he had wasted time, so doing something he knew would be in vain.
源氏さん、親父殿がお呼びだ。相手を頼む。かしこまりました。南條先生、食事に行きましょう。いつまでもここにいると、この甘い匂いで味覚までおかしくなってしまう。
Without waiting for Nanjo, Kraus went downstairs. Genji urged Nanjo to go eat. Nanjo glanced between the study door and Kraus's back as the latter disappeared down the stairs, then let out a deep sigh.
すまんが、源氏さん、頼みます。はい、お任せください。お酒はなるべく与えないように。あれは常習性が強すぎる。源氏はまだか。何者が源氏を阻んでいるというのか。源氏はどこだ。源氏を呼べ。さあ、ここはお任せください。すみませんな。
Nanjo bowed slightly and descended the stairs. Genji watched him leave, then knocked on the study door.
親方様、源氏でございます。源氏か。何故私をこれほどに待たすのか。そこには誰もおるまいな。はい、私だけでございます。
Kenzo returned to his seat in the study and pressed an old-fashioned switch on the table. After a small delay, the heavy sound of a door unlocking could be heard. Kenzo was convinced that his family wanted to make a mess of his study, or perhaps someone had once opened the window for some fresh air and ended up scattering things that, to him, were in turn research materials, leaving him in a terrible mood. Kenzo had outfitted his room with a formidable lock, preventing anyone from entering without his permission, and thereby sealing himself in a jail of his own making. Genji, whom he trusted the most, was relatively free to enter the room, but even that didn't always hold. If Kenzo was in a bad mood, even Genji wouldn't be able to enter. Anyone else would be limited to holding a conversation through the door and unable to even see Kenzo's face. And most of the time, what they got could hardly be called a conversation. However, this didn't trouble the rest of the family much. After all, it wasn't worth all the effort to disturb this aging family head who was impossible to please and always stayed shut away, immersed in his research. Taking advantage of his refusal to leave his room, they supported his isolation, putting his care entirely into the hands of the servants. Genji headed to a corner of the study. There, suspicious-looking bottles boasted venomous colors were on display. They were actually liquor, but considering the shady atmosphere of this room, one might easily suspect them of being ghastly poison. Inside the study, the numerous collection of books gathered by Kenzo had grown into a mountain. They were bizarre, ancient or banned books, all of them rather either forbidden, cursed, or sealed. But if you tried to call them old books, Kenzo would fly into a rage and say, "Call them grimoires!" There were also many mysterious objects that presumably held some meaning with regards to black magic, like candles suspiciously melted and molded into strange shapes. The constellations drawn on a certain celestial globe contained quite a few shapes that would draw puzzled looks from anyone familiar with today's night sky. The carelessly strewn about books contained many illustrations, all of them of a religious or mysterious nature, including some depicting demonically grotesque subjects or bizarre diagrams of various magic circles. And above all, a sweet poisonous smell filled the room, profoundly assaulting the eyes and noses of those who entered for the first time. Eventually, it must surely make a person go numb and lose their grip on reality. Inside that study, Genji prepared Kenzo's usual drink with a well-trained hand. No one would even think of drinking such an ominous dark green liquid in that complex ornate glass, unless someone first told them it was alcohol. He poured a little into the glass. Then he placed a cube of sugar in a strange shaped spoon and poured water in the pitcher over it. Strangely, when the transparent water was poured, the dark green would turn into a cloudy white. It was a strange optical illusion that the water had caused a chemical reaction, as though the water had caused a chemical reaction and made the drink become even more unrecognizable as liquor. Then, Genji added original flavors Kenzo loved, fine-tuning its taste. There was no recipe. Its success was measured only by Kenzo's mood swings when he drank it, and it had taken Genji many decades to learn how to do it right. Genji placed the glass on a tray and walked over to Kenzo. By this time, Kenzo was gazing out the window. Kenzo had regained his composure and was now unrecognizable as the shouting, screaming, yelling man from a few moments ago. Looking at this man from behind as he tilted his glass and gazed down at the scenery from beyond the window, he projected a sense of dignity and intelligence. To allow Kenzo to set his glass down at any time, Genji motionlessly waited behind Kenzo and to his left, as though he were the living sideboard. Then, without averting his eyes from the window, Kenzo held out his glass. There was only a mouthful remaining. It was not a gesture intended to set it upon the tray, but a notion to hand the glass over to Genji. Genji respectfully received the glass and inclined it a little to taste its contents. After that, he gulped it down. Kenzo smiled at his loyal subject, who refused to put aside rank even when asked to. However, he was not making fun of him. His smile was relaxed, as though chuckling at a close friend's old, unshakable habit. Kenzo gave a faint smile, as if to say he didn't need any flattery.
本当によく私に仕えてくれた。息子たちは誰もが私を変人呼ばわりした。大勢いた使用人も皆私を恐れてやめていった。お前だけが今でも私に仕えてくれる。
大概の言葉です。
私の余命もそう長くはあるまい。息子たちは私の遺産がいつ転がり込んでくるかをうろうろ待つハゲタカばかりだ。クラウスの愚か者は金を湯水のように使い、1枚の金貨を売るのに2枚の金貨を捨てておる。それで金を稼げたなどと妄言の。エヴァは金の亡者だ。あやつは私を鶏か何かだと思っておる。死んだらガラにして出汁まで取る気だ。ルドルフの間抜けは女遊びばかり。ローザはどこの馬の骨ともわからん男の赤ん坊など産みおって、ジェシカは無能で無学だ。ジョージには男としての器がない。バトラーは後宮家の栄誉を自ら捨ておった愚か者だ。マリアなど見るのも汚らわしい。なぜだ、なぜに後宮の血はこうも無能なのか。
Yo, can he kill over and die already?
私の築き上げた栄光を受け継ぐにふさわしい者はおらんのか。ああ、分かっておるとも。これがベアトリーチェの呪いであることも分かっておる。黄金の魔女め、それが私への復讐のつもりか。憎みたくば憎むがよい。逃げたければ逃げるがよい。逃がさぬ、逃がさぬ、逃がさぬ、逃がさぬわ。
So yeah.
お前は私のものだ。常に私の腕の中でなくてはならん。私の生涯のすべてなのだ。我が鳥かごにて永遠に私だけにささやき続けるのだ。
Please die. I blame Kuzo for yeah.
ベアトリーチェ、なぜに微笑み返してはくれる。
Just gonna have that on standby. It's no longer on standby. No, I'm just sitting here like, okay then. Alright then, keep your secret. After howling, Kinzo choked once again. Please let it be the final time. Please. I hate him. I really do. Genji set the tray and glass down and rubbed his master's back. Genji's facial expression did not change. It was always like this.
すまぬ。
Damn. When his seemingly deranged fit subsided, Kinzo regained his composure once again. It was like seeing two different people, a wild Kinzo and a composed Kinzo, living together inside one body. Not gonna lie to you, I've long since stopped giving a shit about what he's saying. I'm just letting it play out of common courtesy. I'm not gonna lie to you. Kenzo looked up to the sky outside the window. He spread his arms as if appealing to someone up in the skies. If you can't tell, I desperately want this to be over. His nonsensical yells became a scream and then a wail. Kenzo slumped to the floor, tearing at it with both hands. Genji had no choice but to wordlessly watch over his master's lamentations. Beatrice is going to be doing the red and blue tango with Battler. Kenzo just keel over. Yeah, that was bad. I didn't enjoy any of that. So far, me. I'm interested. Here's Kenzo go on a long-winded rant. Me. Oh boy. I love looping into him being a loud-souled simp who's gone crazy. It's fun. Like please never cut back to it. Like have him die off screen. That makes my life easier.
南條先生、そんなにお父様のお具合は悪いの？せめて顔くらい見せてくれてもいいわよね。
体調というよりは機嫌ですが、こればかりはつける薬がありませんので。
おいおい、機嫌ってまたかよ。そりゃないぜ。こちとら秋のクソ忙しい時期にスケジュール都合してご機嫌伺いに来てるんだ。
Hey Rudolph, how about you not wonder how your dad is doing and be glad he's not around?
それをよ。
よかったじゃないか、ルドルフ。ご機嫌は伺えたんだ。それとも不機嫌な親父殿を私に代わり、お前が説得して連れてきてくれるのかね。
まさかな。
Rudolph shrugged. Apparently, though, Rudolph was willing to be indignant at how self-centered his father was, he wasn't particularly disappointed to be spared a face-to-face meeting. No. No. I have the answer. The answer's no.
親父殿に直接聞いてみるといい。もっとも声をかけない方が機嫌の治りは早いと思う。
源氏さんだけだよ。じい様の機嫌を直せるのは。情けないぜ。自分の親の機嫌を使用人に直させるんだからよ。
ジェシカ、余計なことは言わなくていい。
She planned for a complaint to be heard only by her cousins, but it had reached even Krause's ears. Scolded, Jessica scowled and turned away, sulking.
機嫌がうんぬんってことは、病状はそんな悪くないんじゃねえの？元気がないってんならともかく、機嫌が悪いってのは少なくとも気はしっかりしてる証拠だぜ。
おじい様は特に強い気力をお持ちだからね。
I wish she didn't.
でも体が必ずしもそれに伴えるとは限らないよ。
Good.
去年からずっと余命3ヶ月って言われ続けてる。最初の診断が正しいなら、おじい様は気力だけで流られてるってことになる。気遣ってあげないといけないよ。
Nah, I'd sit there like, let that nigga give up. I'm gonna be real with you. Lunch started with the family head seat still empty. The man who should be sitting there had already grown old, and the brilliant glory which had rebuilt the Ushiramiya family in the span of a single lifetime was being forgotten. Even though they were beginning the meal with that seat still empty, no one felt it was that odd anymore. $1:30. Oh, okay. I'm gonna save. Dear fuck. Dear fuck. I think this would be... Yeah, I think this will be a solid place to end Umineko for tonight. And the stream, because... Dear fuck, I... That's been like a good 3 hours. That was pretty good. But, yeah, thanks for coming out, everybody. Still don't know if I'll try to stream multiple days a week, because I do feel like I'd get through it faster if I did. try to do it multiple days a week, like do a shorter stream of it on other days and then just do the longer ones on Fridays. But I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm probably gonna end up starting up other stuff in between because it's a visual novel and I know how insanely long these things can fucking get. Like, I think I've clocked in a total of, like, what, 5 hours? 4 to 5 hours in Umineko so far, and I don't feel like I've really gotten anywhere, but that's besides the point. Like, this is... Oh, did I close the... No, but it still says I'm streaming, so... Well, anyway, later.